Well, this is a story all about how I stripped this bolt and went back in the house. So last time I was working on this thing, you guys saw that I did the compression test. This was a while ago now. Haven't been doing much lately. Started to pull all this stuff apart, and I was going to put a straight edge across the valves because I think I have tool-up valves, and a lot of these rocker bolts are really hard to get out, and one of them was really hard to get out. All of them are loose now except for this one, and I ended up stripping that one out. So I was going to try to just do a straight edge in the truck and verify that it's actually the valve stretched. Probably would have had to pull the head off anyways, but now that it's stripped out, I'm really going to have to pull the head off. I was twisting the Allen wrenches that I was using for it, like the hex head. Twizzlerized the hex on there, so I'm like, oh, before I strip it out, I'm going to try to get an impact tool, thinking that would be a little bit stronger. Just twisted that one up too, and eventually ended up rounding off the bolt on the inside. So that one's really hard to get out for some reason. I was hoping, I mean, it's just an M8 bolt. Like, I was hoping that I'd maybe just be able to break the bolt head off or something, but not going to be able to do what I wanted to do with just straight edge in the truck, so I'm going to start pulling everything apart. I've also been pretty busy with the gardening stuff. We live in the city, so we built this 20 by 44 greenhouse, and now we're basically turning the whole backyard into a garden. So we've been spending a lot of time working on all this stuff lately. And we also had our big plant sale again this year. We spent like 3 weeks doing that, so that went pretty well. But kind of been neglecting the cars a little bit. But the rear end is done for this now. I don't have wheels for it, so it's just kind of sitting back there right now. I got to put that up. But I figured I want to get the truck done, or at least back on the road, so I can drive this thing and take it to the track. Because it's June already, or end of June already. I've kind of been in like a time warp or something lately. I didn't even realize how late in the year it was until I started seeing sick summer pictures and stuff being posted. But I was still thinking we're in like March for some reason, and it's almost the end of June now. So I'm gonna light a fire under my rear, get some of this stuff cleaned up, and then start ripping the truck apart so we can get it back on the road. I might just get a set of like 799 heads to throw on quick. There's a couple of people local that have some, so I might just throw a set of stock 799s on just so we can get this thing out. Get it rolling again. Alright, so I cracked one loose. I'll see how the other ones come out, if I end up stripping any more of these or if they actually come out. Okay, that one came out. Can't believe how tight these are. I don't know why these are so tight. Or if they're just sealed in there. Some of them have the RTV on them because the porting took off the rocker lump, so then there's thread sealer on some of them, which I just use RTV for. Okay, that one's good. Oh, man. This one's going to be hard, you think?
Yeah, because it's right on the edge.
Right on the edge. Ooh, there we go. More right on the edge.
That one's probably going to be the hardest.
There we go.
How do you not hit your hand?
Oh, lots of practice. Hitting my hands. That was nice.
Dang it. Dropped it again. This time I fell in the oil. Ah.
Well, he got me the bolt, but then he dropped it again. Okay, so did a little bit of wrenching today and got the heads off. And I was able to keep most of it pretty intact. Turbos and everything, downpipes, everything intact, and I was able to just get the intake and the heads off. And nothing is bolted to the heads with the Holley mid-mount kit. It's all bolted right to the front. So I didn't have to remove any of the accessories or anything, so that worked out pretty sweet. And the theory was that I had tool up the valves because when I tightened the rockers, it didn't have compression, but when I would loosen them, they would have compression. So I thought I might have had tool up valves, and all you guys on the internet were like, put a straight edge on it, put a straight edge on it. And I just want to say you guys are totally wrong. Because it's so bad, you don't even need a straight edge to see it. So this guy here, you can actually just see it by looking at it. It stands like way higher than the other one. So obviously I'm just giving you guys shit because that's what I was gonna do, but then as soon as I looked at it, you could just see that it was not good. You can also tell pretty well just by looking at the valve. Like if you look at this valve versus this one here, this has like a huge dish in it. And this one's relatively flat. It has like a little dimple in the middle, but relatively flat. Huge dish. Huge dish. That one's even worse. And then that one's got a big dish in it too. So this is the passenger side head. This was the one that had compression in all the cylinders, but number 7 was a little bit light. And 3 of the cylinders are bad on this one. So there it is with the straight edge. Look at those, aren't even close. Those 3 aren't even close. That one's touching. That one's touching. That one's touching. So all 3 of these intake valves are stretched and touching on this side, and then this intake valve is not even close. It has a really big gap underneath it. And then this one here, it's mainly just that one valve, but that's how much it's stretched. It's pretty bad. It doesn't even touch any of the other valves. So the driver's side head by itself was the one that lost compression in this cylinder here. The exhaust valves, that one's all dark and miscolored. These are all nice and light, still have exhaust burning, so this one must have been dead whole for a little while. So here's a little different look with some light behind it. Those 3 are stretched. And then these 3 are all relatively good. Yeah, and I think on some setups the intake valve or one of the valves will stand up a little bit higher normally, but obviously that's not the case here because these 3 are all the same, and then all of them are the same except for the one on the other head. Yeah, here's the driver's side head with the light behind it. Look how tall that one is compared to all the other ones. Jeez! Here's the bottom of the driver's side head. Look at how flat this one is. Little dimple in the middle. Oh, look at this one. Like if I go like this, you can see the middle, and if I just go straight over, can't even see the middle of the valve. Measure this, and I'm going to zero it on here. It's upside down, but it's zeroed out on this one. Now I'll move it over here. 127 thousandths difference. So like 1/8 of an inch. Zeroed out there. 130. Okay, got some parts in and started to get some valves in here. Got one cylinder done. I'm going with the Ferrea valves. This is the 6000 series, so these are the part numbers. So there's the intake and exhaust valve. The 6000 series is supposed to be their like heavy duty beefcake line. So hopefully I don't have any more issues with these. I did look up the part numbers that were on these valves, and these were like a street mild racing type valve. And these are like $9 a piece for the valves. And these are not $9 a piece. So we're going to put these in. I am going through and lapping them as I go through them. I did get some lapping compound. It has a fine and a coarse grit in there. I've just been using the fine. This one I did use a little bit of the coarse on it because there was still a black spot that didn't come out of it until I used a little more of the coarse grit and then went back over it with the fine grit. This one cleaned up really nice. I just lightly lapped it a little bit and that was fine. So I'll go through and see how the rest of them are. I don't think any of the seats are damaged or anything like that. Everything looks pretty good. And all of them were sealing before, but the valves were just tuliped, right? So that's the reason I was losing the compression. So the seats should all still be good. Just gonna go through and lap them quick. Got some new gaskets, got some copper spray, so we're gonna go through all that. Gasket here is all bubbled out from the high coolant pressure that I did have. So you can see the bubbles on there, so I'm going to go with the new gasket. I did go ahead and turn the engine over and like check the height on all of the pistons just to make sure that there wasn't anything that was, you know, way out of line. I didn't use like a dial indicator or anything. I just visually checked it and then checked against the surface of the top of the deck. So I think everything's fine there. So I'll get going on these and I'll come back in a jiff. Alright, got one head all done. Some nice shiny valves in there. Got cylinder 5 and 7 done now. I'm going to do 3, which is the one that didn't have compression. There's kind of a before shot. I'll put some still pictures in here. And then I'll try to show what I've been trying to get out of this exhaust valve. On the inside there, this one stays dark. Like, I'll lap it and then this side stays a little darker. So I've been having to go a little more on the exhaust valve. But the intake valves are coming out pretty clean. And I don't think that's a problem. It just looks like there's carbon buildup on where it would be seating. It's a darker color, so I'm just taking my time on that part and getting it a little bit better. So I've just been dabbing this grinding compound on my finger and then dabbing it onto where the valve seat is. Put a little bit on the valve and putting the valve in. And I'm being careful now because I realized on like the 5th hole I accidentally dabbed the end of it in the grinding compound and then felt it when I put it in the hole. It was a little notchy, grindy when I put it in there. I felt it right away, pulled it out, cleaned everything up, and then re-lubricated the inside of the valve guide. But yeah, I'm just making sure that I don't accidentally touch it in the grinding compound when I'm putting it in or lifting it out. I've been using this little suction cup that came with this kit. I did try one of these little tools. I didn't really like it that much. It's powered by a drill, but then the end of it slides back and forth. I didn't really like the short stroke on it. It was just a little tiny movement back and forth. I didn't like that as much. So I've just been using an old valve inside the suction cup. I'm lifting it back up. We'll grind all the paste away and then lift it back up and put some more back where it needs to go. I'll see if I can show that colored spot now. So you can very lightly see on the inside there, there's still a little bit of dark on where the valve sits. So I've just been trying to make sure I get that spot out of there. Alrighty, so got everything on, heads on, rockers on. I'm just going through and doing a compression test. So far we got 150 in all of them except for cylinder 3 had 160. I'm going to do cylinder 4 now. I had to recheck cylinder 1 the first time. It came up as 120, so I rechecked it and then it came up to 150. $151. That's like 155. 155.
It's 155 again.
155?
155.
Alright.
$150.
150? Okay, a little under. Alright. So now we know we got all good holes. So I'll go through and button everything else up and then we'll start it up. Alright, all back together. I haven't primed the pump yet, so I'll prime it, make sure I don't have any leaks, and then I'll start it. Alright, see, I wasn't lying to you, I didn't hook the battery up. So this is the first attempt. Alright, battery's hooked up. Still have the extended prime on from when I emptied the fuel tank. Set the prime back to 5 seconds now. I don't see any leaks or anything, so I'll try to give it a start. I did just empty the fuel cell, that's why I had it running. I emptied the fuel cell just so I didn't like drain any more fuel out of the ground, out of the cell once I unhook the fuel lines from the rail. So give it a start. Try to anyways. Sounds very rough. Well, I don't know. I will come back. Alright, got warm pretty fast. I think it was a little low on water coolant. I'll let it sit for a little bit. I did reseat some of the spark plugs. I think that might have been the issue. I know the number 1 cylinder wasn't plugged in all the way. The plug side of the boot, it's kind of hard to get on with these manifolds on there. So you really got to make sure I really got to make sure I feel for that click when it pops onto the spark plug. So for sure one on this side, and then I think the number 2 on this side was loose, but then I reseated like a few of them, just double checked them all. So I think that was it. And then it was just wanting to run really rich at the start, so then I just held the throttle open a little bit, just to let a little more air in until the idle started to clear up, and then it was fine. So I'll let it cool down a little bit. It jumped right up to like 206, so I don't think any of the water was circulating yet. TPS auto set. My throttle position was going between 0 and 1% flickering, so my closed loop and learn wasn't working. Yeah, something's going on with my throttle position. I don't know if you heard me before. I did a TPS auto set. I noticed my closed loop and learn wasn't working, and it was running rich. It's targeting 14.5, but it was running like around 14, 13.8. So I did the TPS auto set because it was flickering between 0 and 1%, so I think it wasn't coming on for that reason. I did the auto set and then it came on and now it's off again. And I saw it flicker to 1 again, so I don't know if something's going on with that. Just did the throttle blade and did the idle air setup. It was only coming to like 25%, so I adjusted that. Now it's down to like 4%. So gonna see if that would help the start a little bit. It seems like it needs more air, so I think I have too much starting fuel in it. So I will fix that. But other than that, it seems alright. Alright, so it is still not wanting to start. Just with the throttle at the idle position, I still have to open the throttle blade, and so I'll probably have to adjust the starting fuel like I said before when I was talking about it with a buddy. And I didn't even think about it, but he said, yeah, you probably tuned around the bad valves, and that makes total sense, because one was a completely dead hole, and then the other ones were stretched and they were opening early, right? So I was probably, had the whole thing tuned around all of those valves that were either not fully seated or opening early, closing late, all kinds of stuff. So that makes sense why it has a lot more fuel in it now than it needs at startup, because one was a completely dead hole, so it would have been adding more fuel than it needed, and then the other ones would have been opening too early and then closing later than normal. So I'm sure that affected all of it. So I'll probably just have to go through and rework the startup tune a little bit, but that's probably a good thing, I guess, if it's really that much different. So I'll try to get it out soon and see how it does.